Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop. Nielsen and Huss back with you once again. As always, presented to you by our wonderful partners over at Coolbet. All the odds we're going to be discussing today and every day right here in The Lock Shop you can find over at coolbet.com. What an interesting Thursday nighter with the developments in last night's game. Huss, how you doing this morning, buddy? Huss, I can't hear you. Are you mute? Did you mute yourself?
Sorry about that. That
there
was
we go.
Amateur hour here, getting into the weekend a little early. Muted Mike. Yeah, that was quite a game last night. I mean, listen, I think we kind of have to just start off with thoughts for Tua. That was so scary. And the conversations around the National Football League over the next little while as to how he was in the game, did everything was the procedures followed properly, I think are going to ramp up. But that was really, really scary. And sort of put a bit of a black cloud over the game. That being said, you need to Barry Horowitz yourself, my friend, because you ran the table yesterday. That was all I can do is sit back and applaud.
It's been Sundays. I'm sitting at 5-7 now, 3-1 last Sunday, but I needed last night. Like I did. It hit both props. T. Higgins, huge. Got the Bengals just over 26.5. Snuck that in as well. Rode with your Tyreek Hill play. Threw it into the Lock Shop play of the day. We hit that as well. I had a nice little bet builder as well. It was from a betting perspective, it was a great night for me. It was a good night for the Lock Shop. Tyreek Hill, obviously, just having a huge game, and you were on that as well. I mean, and we're gonna bring in Jake Bowen-Moss, and we'll get his thoughts on it here right away, and get some of his early leans, and we'll give you our best bets. But I was so disappointed in the Thursday Night Football panel at halftime, not even referencing that Tua had been hammered on Sunday. Like and it's not just on the announcers. Like one of them could have just had the balls and stepped up and said something, but that's on the producers. Like they're the producers in their ear telling them not to go there. It's as simple as that. I work in TV. They direct you where you're going in those types of hits. It was pathetic. It was a pathetic look for Amazon and Thursday Night Football that they went through the entire halftime just going, his extremities are moving. This is part of the game. Not a single reference until like the fourth quarter when the play-by-play crew got to it. I just shook my head, man. That's just such a bad look for the league.
Yeah, you wonder if Roger Goodell wasn't on line one saying, let's just move on, everybody. Let's just move on. And for it to happen in prime time after – one of the biggest games of last week, Bills Dolphins, then that most fans saw what happened to Tua, and I think we're questioning him coming back into the game last weekend in the first place. So just a horrible result, scary incident on the field. And as I said, big win for the Bengals. They got it done. You wonder what this does to Miami going forward, because they've had a great start to the season with those first 3 wins, the huge win in the division against the Buffalo Bills, and now first things first, worried about Tua and how he progresses from this, but it's also a devastating injury for a team that had a great start.
All right, like we said, Jake Bowen-Moss. You can find him on Twitter at Jake Bowen-Moss. He's with Coolbet, and he's going to pop by. We'll get talk about a few of the games that maybe we're not on, that get some takes from him on that. Let's bring him in this morning. Jake, good to be back with you, buddy. Happy Friday. How you doing?
Fellas, made it to a Friday episode. Feel like I'm moving up in the world here in the Lock Shop realm.
Let's not get too carried away just yet. With that being said, I know you sent me out a ton of Coolbet swag, and I've got us in a box over there, and you did send me one of those white hats. And, it's the first thing I took out of the box, and I can't find it now. I don't know where the hell I put it. It's got to be somewhere in my basement. But I've looked for it for like 2 days. I'm like, where did I put that lid? Because I want to start wearing it. It's a good look. But I got like 16 of these sitting over there, and I can't find the white one. So I'm gonna have to track that down, because I like just the white look. It's a good look.
Yeah, the one that you have on right now, we have a lot more of those. The white ones are they're a hot commodity, I say. So you better find that, because it's a collector's item at the moment. I think there's only about 30 floating around in the realm out there. So
it's got to be here somewhere. I'll track it down. Hey, before we get to this weekend, just your thoughts on everything that transpired, I guess, last night.
Yeah, obviously a lot going on. The Tua situation isn't good. It's not a good look for the Dolphins. I don't think it's a great look for the league. I don't really know how they were able to get around putting him back in the game not only last week, and then 4 days later he's playing in a Thursday nighter, and I mean, worst case scenario, right? He goes down like that, and it did not look good. And obviously, you're praying that it's best case scenario, but I don't know. This could spiral. This could get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Like when Jake says worst case scenario, he means it. Like not just was he knocked out of the game, he's laying on the field. Like it couldn't have been any worse. I mean, that's absolutely worst case scenario. Like stretch it off, taken away in an ambulance, just a disaster.
Yeah, the visual of it, absolutely. I mean, listen, I think we all have to realize that it actually could have been worse. This is professional football, and I mean,
yeah, that's a good point.
The fact that he was moving, we're getting positive reports. He was able to travel with the team going home. But I don't think that changes the very important questions that need to be asked about what happened, how he was put in this situation, and how dangerous it was. And all you can hope is that this maybe prevents something like this happening again. I mean, I think of other coaches. Mike Tomlin famously held Ryan Clark out of a game because, what does he have, the sickle cell anemia or something like that? And he basically said, my first priority is to the health and safety of my players. And I'm just not sure that the Miami Dolphins were thinking the same way going into last night's game.
Yeah, that's frustrating. In the end, it's a victory for the Bengals, and we move forward here to week 4. Jake, first of all, I mean, give us your favorite play, and then there's a couple of games that Huss and I want to talk about as well. We haven't laid out our picks yet, but is there anything that you absolutely love this week?
Sure. I mean, absolutely love. It's hard to absolutely love anything with as cold as I've been in the NFL. First one that caught my eye, though, I'm looking at the Chargers spread, -5.5. I think this is a scenario where it feels like a Bengals game from last week. They get the Jets. They kind of take care of business, win by double digits. It's 5.5 right now. I know that Herbert is having issues, but Houston's given up a ton of yards on the ground. I think Eckler can have a big game. I think they rely on the defense to do a lot of the work, and I think the Chargers can cover. I like the 5.5 number. I think probably I'd go all the way up to 6.5, and then if it starts to get in that 7 range, I get a little concerned. So that was the first one that kind of jumped off the page for me. I think this is a good bounce back spot for them.
Well, and Dusty, you mentioned Eckler when we were doing the fantasy show earlier this week.
He's due for a game.
Eckler owners need a big game from Austin Eckler. He's been incredibly quiet so far, and I'm really interested in this game to see how the Chargers bounce back from that ass kicking at home to the Jags last week, because not only was it somewhat of a humiliating loss that I think sort of put their hopes and dreams in perspective, but there were some big injuries in that football game for the Chargers. I mean, they're without Joey Bosa now for an extended period. He's been put on IR. I mean, at the beginning of the season, you saw how dangerous this team could be when healthy. It's just the same old story. They always get decimated earlier on in the season. And, we'll see how well Staley can put that, put a squad out there to handle the Texans team that I'm telling you right now is going to backdoor cover and, surprise some people. Not necessarily this week, but over the course of this season. I just don't think that people just assume that this team was going to be 1-16. And, Lovie Smith's got them playing hard. They actually do have some talent. I mean, they really should have won that game against Chicago, to be perfectly honest. David Mills throws that late pick. When they had the football, they would, worst case scenario, would have gone to overtime. Next thing you know, it's a 3-point loss. But I stayed away from this game because it is. Well, Jake, let me hit you with this, because we had a good text conversation last week. What is the JBM fishiest line of the week? I mean, is there one of these numbers that just go, oh, I'm staying away from this game, or I'm on it, but I don't feel good about it because the line makes me nervous?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think last night was actually the one you look at.
I was going to say,
that was the one that I was like, you got to be on the Bengals, because in what world are they 3.5-point favorites? And obviously they covered by a zillion, and there was really no doubt there. But I don't know. I looked at that Browns-Falcons game. I know it's kind of like top of the list there, but it's kind of a pick 'em right now. I think the Falcons are a little bit of a dog at home. I think the Browns obviously hit that great run attack. I don't know if we were sure about Brissett, what's going on with him. To have a pick 'em, I mean, I guess because I know you guys talked about this yesterday, you get those 3 points at home. So I guess the Browns technically are the said favorite in this game, being on the road, and that they still are the favorite. But that one kind of stands out to me. I might lean Falcons there. Yeah, I don't know. None really stuck out like that one last week. I mean, we talked about it. I can't believe And then I knew it too because I lost every other bet last weekend, but the Colts. I should have been on the money line. It was it made me sick that I wasn't on their money line because I got killed last week. The only bet I won was Colts spread. So.
Any thoughts? There's a couple games that we're not on this week, but we want your thoughts on them. Bills Ravens. I mean, are you leaning anywhere on that game? Because I mean, it should be an excellent football game. I can't wait to watch it. I just don't know what the hell to do from a betting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the problem this season is there hasn't been a ton of overs. Unders are cashing at like a high rate. That seems like a game you'd want to bet the over on, right? 51.5, and you hope it's going to be a fun game. And obviously, Bills have had some issues with injuries on defense, and Baltimore has a slew of injuries on their own end. But you want it to be an Allen and Lamar MVP type of game in Week 4. But it's so hard to bet overs right now with nothing really cashing on overs, and unders are just killing it. So I don't know. It's tough to say, right? Ravens at home. Like I said, injuries on both sides. I don't know. I want the over to hit. I think I'll probably play it like the square that I am, but I don't really have a bet that I necessarily love in that one either, Dusty. It's tough.
You summed up my thoughts perfectly, buddy. Like, I'm going to bet the over just so I can cheer for madness in that game. But, Huss, I'm probably going to stay away from the side. I mean, we're not touching it with our best bets.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. I mean, I think if you look at trends, the Bills after a straight up loss, never mind against the spread, have bounced back well. And what the Ravens have given up 68 points in their last 2 games. I mean, this is watching it be 10-7. I mean, this is the way things are going to go.
Yeah.
I'm with you, though. And, you know, I think both of these guys, if one of these 2 quarterbacks has a massive game, they then begin being the sort of first quarter leader for the MVP race. I mean, there's going to be a lot of eyes on this football game and hopefully a lot of fireworks on the scoreboard.
What about Bucks Chiefs, Jake? What do you think about that? It's been such a weird week. It's like, where's this game going to be played? Okay, it's going to be in Tampa. Obviously, there's been a lot going down in that area of the United States right now. Chiefs roll in as a slight dog in this game, and they're coming off that game last week that you obviously, were on, and you knew what was going to happen there. It's a tight line. It's primetime game. I'm staying away from it, but where do you come out on this one?
This, by the way, is a straight up pick 'em right now.
Is it a pick 'em now? I thought I saw this morning it was 1 point.
It's you get plus if you take the Chiefs +1 at -118, you can take Bucks -1 at +100.
Oh yeah,
you can have the exact same bet reversed. Bottom line is it's 104 on the money line either way. So we are talking about a straight up pick 'em, and this is a game that opened at 2.5 for the Chiefs, which was a little surprising considering the way they played last week against the Colts. But Jake, what do you think? I mean, this is sort of a 50-50 game, a hell of a Sunday night matchup in prime time.
You guys are giving me the hard-hitting games here on Friday. I don't know. Does that make you a little nervous, Huss? I think I would have leaned Chiefs early in the week. I know they were 2.5-point favorites, and I don't think the Bucks offense has been clicking by any means. Obviously, a ton of injuries there as well. But the Chiefs, I mean, off that loss to the Colts last week, you got to be thinking this is a good bounce back spot for them. You go in to Tampa, you face a tough Buccaneers defense, and you kind of grind one out. I think this is going to be a good test for the Chiefs. I'd probably lean Chiefs in this one, to be honest with you. I have a hard time seeing the Chiefs lose 2 in a row. I think the Bucs still have a lot of questions that need to be answered. I think it's still Patty Mahomes. And I think he gets up for games like this. Tom Brady. This is another point that I've heard from someone early in the week. Could be the last time we see Mahomes versus Brady, right? So it could be one of those games where it's like, okay, I want to get the last laugh, but it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. I don't know, even at 45.
I'm still pissed off from the the AFC Championship game in 2019, which I was there, and the infamous D Ford offside, which propelled the Patriots past the Chiefs. So there will be a little bit of revenge on this. Dusty, one thing that stands out to me with 2 offenses that are so prolific, the total is only 45.5 in this game. I mean, and again, speaking of fishiest lines, that seems to be begging for an over in prime time.
Yeah.
And I think some certainly the Bucs defense has been elite so far this year. And the Chiefs defense has shown quite a bit so far. So I'm quite interested as to where that total gets to by the time we get to kickoff on Sunday night. Wouldn't be surprised if it moved, but it does seem like it should be a little bit more when you think about what these two offenses are capable of.
Jake, we appreciate the time, buddy. I'll fire you a lock shot play of the day here in about an hour or so. All right, man?
Awesome, boys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jake.
That's Jake Bowen-Moss from Coolbet joining us to take a look. We'll transition over to our Week 4 best bets. By the way, watch Coolbet's social medias for the play today. Trying to go 4-1 this week, and I'm heading to the Canadian Football League tonight. A little CFL action. In fact, it has something to do with your Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Huss. So you're gonna want to follow along on that later today.
I will look forward to that. By the way, just a little tease for the Coolbet. Follow Coolbet Canada on all your socials for our Lock Shop Daily Pick. That number, which was 8.5 when we did the show earlier, has now gone down to 7 right now. So I think a little bit of
point and a half
on the visiting riders right now, and still a total of 51.5. Well, Fajardo has all of his receivers together for really the first time this season, and a big boost on the offensive line, and Jackson Jeffcoat's out. So I can see why this number is maybe coming down a little bit. Very interested to see how the Bombers bounce back, though, coming off the bye week and their worst loss in 3 years or so.
All right, let's get into our best bets. Let's start with the game that we're both on, Huss, and then we can break down our other 3 picks. We're both on Jacksonville plus 6.5 for a team that's looked as good as they have, and the way that they've won football games so far, I get it, man. The Eagles look really good. They do. I'm surprised. It's basically been at 6.5 all week. There's been very little movement on this too, has there, Huss?
No, and you know what? It's minus 105 for Jacksonville with the plus 6.5. So, if you wanted to get it to 7.5, you're talking about minus 135, which actually isn't too bad. Listen, the Eagles have been the class of the NFC so far, and they have been somewhat of a buzzsaw. And I think there is the potential for them to run the Jags out of the building. But listen, after the way that they bounced back from that ugly week 1 loss with a shutout of the Colts and then an absolute beatdown of the Chargers, I'm not sure people, and I don't think this line is respecting Jacksonville enough of what they've done so far. This offense is able to score points. Now, I do worry, and we talked a little bit again about in the fantasy football extravaganza about the potential for fireworks, certainly offensively, especially from Philadelphia. We certainly like Jalen Hurts as a great DFS start. But I'm going to throw Trevor Lawrence into that mix as well. And then we always love the revenge game narrative, and make no mistake about it, Doug Peterson would love nothing more than to stick it to the team that let him go after he won them a Super Bowl. And this is the potential for a major statement game by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they did that last week, but with the injuries around the Chargers, I'm not sure they got the credit that they deserve for the way that they handled one of the top teams in the AFC. Now they're moving over to the NFC, maybe moving up a weight class against an undefeated team. I think this will be a close game. I think the Jags can hang offensively with them as long as they don't get blown out early. And, we're talking about coming back from a 17, 20-point lead. I think come fourth quarter, we could have an exciting game. This is one of the games I'm most excited to see. And
yeah, for sure.
I'd be talking about Eagles Jags on this program. I would say no, but just seems like a big number. And I think Jacksonville's earned the confidence of bettors that they can hang with a team like Philly, even on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I even like this, even if they do get up by 17 or something. The Jags offense is backdoor all year. You know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be many games. First of all, there's not going to be many games the rest of the way where the Jags are a dog by 6.5 with the way that they've played so far. But, I mean, I could see them being down by 14-17 in the fourth quarter, still coming back and easily covering the 6.5. So I love the fact that it's such a big window for a backdoor cover here. And on top of that, I mean, when you look at Jacksonville, and one of the reasons that they've managed to take this step, obviously coaching change, number one. But this is a team that has the quarterback to hurt you in Trevor Lawrence. And because of that, and they bring in Christian Kirk, they can hurt you through the air. And they've got a great ground attack with James, well, 1-2 punch, but James Robinson coming off that injury last year, nobody expected him to come out and be the monster that he has been through the first 3 weeks of the season. So what I'm saying here is that offensively, they can hurt you in a bunch of different ways. I wonder if the Eagles, I know everybody always says, oh, you can't take anybody lightly, but I wonder if the Eagles after a 3-0 start are still like, it's the Jags. You know, I think there's a chance here for Jacksonville to catch them a little bit. So this was my top pick of the week. As soon as I saw it, I said I still think people are disrespecting what the Jags have done so far. So yeah, I'm on Jacksonville plus 6.5. It's our one unanimous pick of the week. By the way, last week Huss was 3-1. I was 3-1. Huss is 7-5 so far, and that 3-1 got me back up to 5-7, which is nice. So Huss, where else you going this week?
Yeah. By the way, I mean that 3-1. If you recall, I had to take
so
the
close
plus 2.5, but I did tell everyone get it at 3, or you could just put it in at 3.5. Had a number of people follow me on the parlay with the 3.5 on the Texans and ran the table. It was about a 12-1 or so. Nice to see everyone. Hopefully we can do it again. Next up, listen, my favorite game of the week, if I was only betting one game, I think I'm taking the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5 against the Indianapolis Colts. Listen, I know that the Colts beat the Chiefs last week, but if you watch that game, there were so many things that conspired to keep Indy in the game. Penalties, kicking issues without Harrison Butker. It was sort of the perfect storm. But I'm here to tell you right now, the Indianapolis Colts are not very good. They are the team that got waxed and shut out by the Jacksonville Jaguars the week before. And for Tennessee, who avoided going 0-3 with that win over the Raiders last week, I think they see this opportunity as a chance to get right back in it in the AFC South after a really ugly start. Mike Vrabel, historically, I believe he's won 5 or 6 in a row against Indy. And I just think overall, Tennessee looked really bad early on, and I think many of us overreacted to just how bad they got killed by the Buffalo Bills on that Monday nighter. They come back with a win over a 0-3 Raider team, but one that certainly is dangerous, and now have the opportunity to get it. The bottom line is this should not be more than 3. If you're going to give us a half point, I'm taking it all day long. Tennessee plus 3.5, probably my favorite pick. And then the other two games that I've got, we've talked a little bit about Cleveland and Atlanta. And I mean, to me, the running attack of the Cleveland Browns is the unit. Yeah, it's the unit to me that separates these two teams. I've been really impressed with Atlanta. I mean, I bet them the last 2 weeks, and they've covered both weeks. I just think that now in a game that is, for all intents and purposes, a pick 'em, Cleveland's a 1-point favorite right now going into this game and minus 123 on the money line. I think this is the opportunity for Cleveland just to continue to do it. I've been very impressed with Stefanski and how he has handled this offense in the early season without Deshaun Watson. And the crazy thing about it, Dusty, is I think they go in and win this football game. And if it were not for that ridiculous collapse in the last 2 minutes against the Jets, the Browns with Jacoby Brissett could be talking about a 4-0 record. That being said, I think they're going to be talking about a 3-1 record. I do like them to get the win in Atlanta against the Falcons. And my final pick of the week is those Raiders. They're 2.5-point favorites at home against the Broncos. And listen, I'm not a fan of the Raiders, and I sure as hell am not a fan of Josh McDaniels. But what we've seen from Denver has been the most underwhelming 2-1 start in recent NFL history. That game last Sunday was so horrible, and I know we spent some time talking about it on Monday's show. I just don't know how you can count on much from the Denver Broncos right now offensively, and certainly their defense did step up, but the Niners were completely out of sorts as well. And the one thing I'll say about the Raiders is, I mean, they have been able to score points. They probably should have won that game last week, and they certainly should have won the game against the Arizona Cardinals. So getting them as only a 2.5-point favorite at home in a game that could very well define their season, because you go 0-4 in the AFC West, and you can basically just start talking to your scouts about the draft going forward. So no confidence in Denver whatsoever. Hackett, I'm not sure if he can hack it, excuse the pun, as an NFL head coach. Russell Wilson hasn't looked very good. And to me, Raiders season on the line at home. I think they get the win, and I don't mind laying the 2.5.
All right, I like that Cleveland play as well. Tennessee, I like all your picks. I mean, last week you parlayed them and you hit it. So if you want to tail hustle and parlay again. Boom. See if we can do there. I'm going to go to Minnesota. A game overseas. It'll be the early game for you on Sunday. Minnesota is still sitting at 2.5. I've seen it move to 3 in some places. It's still sitting at 2.5 at Coolbet, and I will take that, and I'm pretty confident about it going up against the Saints. The Saints are 1-2 on the year, and their one win, they had to storm back and steal it away from the Atlanta Falcons. And you can say all you want about the Saints defense. That Saints defense has not been good enough to win this team football games just yet. On top of it, looks like Andy Dalton will be starting this game for the Saints. Michael Thomas, surprise, surprise, will not be playing as well. I just think Minnesota overall is a much better football team than what we've seen from the Saints so far. So I thought I might have to settle for this and eat it at a 3. I love it at -2.5, and I'd be very surprised if Minnesota can't get the job done on the road. They need to get Justin Jefferson going. That's for sure. I know fantasy owners who drafted Justin Jefferson, been like, what's going on with Jefferson? He's due for a big one. Is this the week? Minnesota, -2.5. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to Dallas, -3. I don't even need to dive in this one too much against the Commanders. Let me lay this one on you, okay? Not outside of Cooper Rush, hasn't lost in his career, 2-0 this year, whatever. The Dallas Cowboys lead the National Football League in sacks. We just saw it in primetime. A ton of pressure. The Washington Commanders, Carson Wentz, have surrendered the most sacks so far this season. You barely have a chance to win a game if you can give Carson Wentz time in the pocket. If you can't give Carson Wentz any time against arguably the best pass rush in the National Football League, you're screwed. So as much as I like some of the weapons that they have, not happening. I'm going to take Dallas -3 against Washington. And then I will go to Arizona, who does not look like a good football team so far this year. No. But their 2 losses have been to the Chiefs and the Rams. And I still think the Chiefs and the Rams are good football teams. The team that they're playing this week is not a good football team. Christian McCaffrey missed the last 2 days at practice with a quad issue. So he's back on track again. So even if he does play, and I know as of this morning, I don't think he's been ruled out. He's questionable or doubtful or something. Even if he does play, I mean, what percentage is he going to be at? And Baker Mayfield has this incredible talent in DJ Moore. And I saw a stat yesterday that close to 50% of the balls thrown in DJ Moore's direction have been classified as uncatchable. Like, that's your guy. Nothing against Robbie Anderson, but if your offense is going to click, especially with a banged up Christian McCaffrey, you have to at least throw the ball properly to DJ Moore. If you can't do that, you don't have a chance anyway. So I'm going to side with Kyler Murray as obviously at +1. I'll take him to win this game as well. But I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. They've lost to 2 pretty good football teams so far. This is not one of them. This is actually closer. Like, the Panthers are closer ability to the team the Cardinals beat. So I'm going to roll with Arizona. I don't feel overly confident because I haven't liked the way they played this year, but I like the way that this game shapes up.
Well, you know what? And listen, I was on Carolina the first couple weeks and then got them on the money line last week as part of that parlay we did on the Saturday show. And I'm with you. I heard a very interesting stat about Baker Mayfield in Carolina this year. And Baker, when under pressure, is throwing throwing like 30% catchable balls. When he's got time in the pocket, he's pushing 80%. I mean, there's a huge gap. He just hasn't been able to make plays when he's under duress. So to me, this is going to come down to how well can the Arizona front 4 get into the backfield and get to Baker Mayfield, because Baker can make plays if you give him time. He hasn't had a lot of it so far, and that's been quite impactful. But you're exactly right. They got to get DJ Moore going. And a potential loss of Christian McCaffrey is absolutely devastating to that offense. He means so much to what they plan to do. And the attention that he gets from the defense often opens up some softer spots in the secondary for some of those receivers to make things happen. But again, if you got a guy in your face, Baker's not making the play, and that will be a big challenge if it's Chuba Hubbard instead of Christian McCaffrey in that game on Sunday.
There you go. That's our week 4 best bets. Huss is on Cleveland -1, Tennessee +3.5, Vegas -2.5. I'm on Minnesota -2.5, Dallas by a field goal, Arizona +1, and then we are both on Trevor Lawrence and the Jags +6.5 to keep it close against the unbeaten Philadelphia Eagles.
Hey, by the way, we should mention, and regular listeners are probably going, well, where the hell are the Lions? The Lions have been the team, the ATS darlings so far. We've got them in. Did you think about putting the Lions on there? I mean, this is an opportunity where they're a favorite, which doesn't happen very often, playing a pretty weak Seattle team at home, coming off a game that they had no business losing to the Minnesota Vikings. It's another reason why I sort of like the Vikes. I think they know they got away with one last week, and they really have to put the pedal to the metal. But, looking at this game, it was 4. I think right now it's at 4.5. I think there's going to be a lot of steam on the Detroit Lions if they can go. We'll see if they can get to 4-0 against the spread. But did you think at all about maybe pushing the chips in on the silver and blue?
I mean, if it was that 2.5, 3, maybe. But no Amon-Ra St. Brown, probably no DeAndre Swift, and that's their two best options. So. Because of that, I couldn't do it. Amon-Ra St. Brown has already been ruled out, and DeAndre Swift is dealing with both he's dealing with a shoulder injury. So, actually, no, it is. I just saw it's been confirmed by Al Butler. I'm just seeing here. Both St. Brown and Swift are out. So, as of this morning, I thought it was just St. Brown, but now it's both. So, I mean, I don't mind some of their other guys, but that's weapon 1 and weapon 2, and then everybody else is down here. Nothing against Jamal Williams, who from the fantasy perspective should have a huge week. So I can't do it at that number. I mean, I might still take him to win on the money line because it's Seattle, but I can't do it. If those two guys were in, for sure, 100%, it probably would have been in my card. But that's 2 huge pieces out, man. I can't do it.
Well, and that's a big number to lay on a team without their top 2 offensive weapons. And the Lions right now, minus 217 on the money line. So I think there's a reason why it's a stay away game this week. But I will be pulling for them to keep it going. And they've been a lot of fun to watch so far this year, but a lot more fun with Swift and St. Brown in the lineup, which sounds like that's not going to happen this week.
We will have some parlays and props coming your way on Saturday, so make sure you are watching that. If you're watching on the live stream, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We're talking 5-6 episodes per week here with NFL and NFL going, and we're going to be mixing in hockey right away as well. Huss, enjoy the rest of your day, buddy. We'll catch up tomorrow.
Right back at you, pal.